Okay, my animation, or the Elden Ring animation, is halfway, maybe 1/3 of the way complete, right? And I want to show you what it looks like, or what it is looking like, or what it has looked like as the progress has gone on, or whatever, the work in progress. I'm going to show you the work in progress. So this is what it looks like now, right? I'll show you the quick animation here, what it looks like in the program, but it does not look like this in video form. See how the like eye jitters and shit? That's not how it looks like. There's actually a lot of iterations that this thing went through, and this is the one.
How are you gonna fix it, huh? Which one are you gonna fuck me?
You're not my type. I like a full of flicker.
Stop.
That's what it looks like so far. The background is transparent, but you can see I've just overlaid it onto the sketch. And this is 1920 by 1080, right? This I had to make bigger. So this is like, oh, what's this? 2K by 1080 maybe, or no, it's 1920 by 1500, I think. So it looks square, but it actually is higher resolution, but because it's trying to match this, it looks a bit shit. It's because Rodon is too fucking big, and even though I've made the canvas bigger so that I can fucking fit his big fat head, he's still quite short. He's not supposed to be this small in comparison to Millennia. So I'm gonna have to figure that out when I finish this, because this is the sketch of this part of the animation. It did not look like this originally. It was very rough, and I've kind of just got the shapes of everything, and then I'll clean up. But can I say I loved when it looked like this, right? Let me show you, right? So in the first edition, the first rendition, I guess that's not gonna load. It looked like this, right? It was sketchy, but it was still like you got the shapes of everything. He's no hair, he's bald. That's his curse actually. But originally, like if I get rid of this, it looked like this. Okay, it's a bit more rough, but it's still there. You can still see him. This is what it really looks like. And this is what they all look like, by the way. So if I scroll here, this is what it looks like. This is what it started out as. Very rough, just getting the posing right, and then I would clean it up, and I made like this sketch, and this goes for Radon and Millennia. This is what they look like. A little note just to roll his eyes there. I don't know what's going on here, but just ignore that. This is what they look like. Very, very rough. Kind of just shapes, getting the shapes of what they look like down. But once it got to this stage, I was very happy because you could see the animation, like what it would look like. It was very coherent. Well, sketchy but coherent, if you get me. It got the job done, and you could see the progress. But then when I had to do line cleanup and coloring, this was so goddamn tedious. This took me an entire day to do the line cleanup and the coloring, maybe just over a day. And I'll show you so what it originally looked like, because here it is, right?
How are you gonna fix it?
Let me just turn this off because we don't need audio on this, right? The shoulders move. It's very kind of just got the job done.
How are you gonna fix it?
But then there's a jitter, right? And there's actually an earlier version of this where the shoulders don't even move, and I'll show you that later. But you'll see that the shoulders, they jitter, they go up, then back down. That's because I started reusing the mouths because they synced better, but then, oh shit, they're connected to the shoulders and the animation looks buggy. So then I had the bright idea to, let me actually get it here, right? To remove the mouth and put it on a separate layer as a transparent layer here. And these are actually all the frames, because I did this. This is where the shoulders don't move. There's actually a video version of this. I have it. But that's what it looked like. And then I would keep doing another iterations, exporting the layers, because though this has an animation tool, you can only export it as a GIF. And I did that for some of them, and I'll show you that later. But you can only export it as a GIF. But it is very helpful to see what an animation would look like with certain frames. But so what I do is I open my video editor and I do it frame by frame. I put them in individually, and it's actually a lot better because if I want like him to hold a certain frame like this, specifically this one actually, I can make it longer. While I can make this one last like a second, this could last like a few seconds. That's probably hyperbole. It lasts way shorter than a second actually. But this is what it originally looked like, and then I'd keep going from there. And it started with so after I got rid of the mouths, I had to do it on a. Okay, so you can see that there's a lot of frames, mostly because I actually have to delete a lot of these because these are actually redundant now. But I have a problem. It's a problem, but it also is very cool because you can see where it started. Like you can see these were the origins. But actually, that's my third sequence because this is what it really looked like. The shoulders don't move, the mouth is on the same layer. It's very short. And then this is where I did the no mouth. You can still see the shoulders jitter because I was still using the same frame, it's just without the mouth. So, and then I obviously went back and fixed this. And doing the coloring, going back to the coloring, was actually quite difficult because where is it? I had to do. I might have an image of this. Let me actually. It's might be not here. This one, no. Yes. So here's the line art. So because I was doing the hair now, because I left the hair because I did not want to fucking touch that. That was horrible. I had to divide the hair up into sections to make it easier, which was the back of the hair, the front, and the two little pony pigtails or whatever. And I had to do that for all of them, and they'd move separately. And the best part was most of this side of the hair was going to get deleted anyway because it's supposed to be behind his shoulder. But that also, it made things a lot easier. But the next thing was when I was doing coloring, there's tiny pixels that I could have missed, and because he's very light colors, like he's very like pale, if I wanted to see a tiny white pixel, it was going to be extremely hard. So I did bright colors first, And this is what it looked like. This is what he looked like originally. So I could see the tiniest pixels if they were out of place. And what I do is, this is where it was. This was all the mad colors, but I would go in one by one, click protect alpha, and then I'd click end, the end key or whatever, and it would just change the entire color. Yeah, change the entire color. And I did that one by one for each frame. That took me like an entire, like, I don't know, day or night. The whole cleanup of the liner and the coloring took me like a day or over a day. And that was really the tedious part. But I have, every time I've made a difference, a tiny difference, whether it's
How are you gonna
something like this, where actually you can see that the line is actually transparent, and I had to actually go back because I realized this so late. I had to go back through all of the frames and make sure they were all opaque. Very painful process. Where it's the shoulders, and then if we go back here to the 18th
How are you
try,
gonna fix it, huh? Which one of you gonna fuck me?
we can see it's very more evolved. But also the highlights. I wanted the highlights not to move, but his eyes would. But I overlaid it in my program here. But as a result of overlaying it in my program, it has this weird shadow. Because that's not supposed to be there. That's not there in the drawing that I have. That's just there in the program. And I don't know why that's there. It looks a bit weird. But also at the same time, I don't care. Because you don't really notice it that much, and it's not going to make a big difference. Moving on to, I suppose, Radon and Melania. If I can open it. Like I said, this Fire Alpaca really wasn't built for animation. It kind of just has it there if you want to make a GIF, a really short GIF, but it wasn't built for this much, if you get me. I was actually quite happy. Melania is perfect. She's fine. Radon was horrible to do. He does not look the right size. I had to make the screen bigger, like I said, just to fit him in. But he doesn't look, in comparison to Melania, they look too close in height. So I'm probably going to, once I finish his animation, I will probably size him up in post, because if I do it in post, I can have the specific size measurement he is or whatever, and I don't have to do it here. But one thing is, I really liked the hand. I had no reference for this. I did have reference for when Mikola puts up his hand. That was horrible to do, trying to find the right pose. I went through a lot of iterations actually of that. I don't know if I have ignore this. I don't know if I have the many poses I did of him and his hand. Because for some awful reason, trying to get that hand pose was horrible. But when we look at Radon, I was actually quite proud of his arms. Like, that was no reference. That was just me kind of winging it. And it's not perfect. Like, I think this needs to be fixed. It looks a bit wrong. This is okay. But then this, I need to fix this because there needs to be an in-between between these frames, because these two are actually the same hand. But otherwise, it's quite alright. I might fix this tiny bit, but otherwise, this is pretty good. And then I probably need to fix more of this. It's all just cleanup, and that's for later me to do. But then I feel like maybe this hand needs to be fixed. It kind of shrinks and kind of gets a bit small, but like in a weird way, if you get me. And then Melanie actually only has 2 frames here where she's talking, and I'm not gonna do any more. And then he's supposed to roll his eyes or something, and that's pretty much it. I think Melanie is probably the best here. She looks how she's supposed to look. Can I just say getting references for these fuckers was actually so fucking hard. I don't have the game. And I had to Google references. because I actually have references here, because finding anything from Mikola was actually super hard, because most of his stuff came with the DLC, and Millennia I had pretty good reference on, but Mikola was actually horrible, as well as Radon. Radon in his armor was god-awful. Like, what is even going on here? He's supposed to have a lion here? Like, my god. Yes, there wasn't very much references, or at least good references. So actually, if you look at Mikola, that's his collar or his neckline is for his top is wrong. It's supposed to be more like this, where it's a circular. But I gave him a turtleneck, I guess, because I was trying to look at the images online, and they all did different ones, and I was like, especially his hair went through a big change. Like, if I not this one, it's his, yeah, right here. So if you look here, that is a completely different, like, the hair is all down here is basically the same, but up here, that's pretty different. Because he has the he has the fucking braids, I guess. And I was like, when I was looking at the reference here, I was like, fuck, bro has braids. So I just quickly added them. God damn it. And also, once I realized the braids, I was like, I also saw the neckline, and I was like, but at that point, I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't care. He's a turtleneck boy, I'm sorry. And I left it there. But it's all very tedious. Like, once you get past the fun part where it's like everything here, and you have to do the hair, the line cleanup, and the coloring, that's when shit gets fucking awful. This is what it looks like without color, by the way. You can see the last frame still has some of that, some of the colored lines. And I don't know if people know this. Why is he pixel, right? Because if you look closely at the animation, he's very pixelated. Because I don't have, when I do the animation, I mean, I don't have anti-analyze it, whatever it's called, on. And that's because it's just so much easier for animation. And let me explain, right? So, if I want to draw with anti-aliasing, I don't know how it's called on, and I want to make a little guy, a little dude, right? And I want to have him, I don't know, like blink. But then I want to color him in. I want to make him bright green, right? So I'll go a layer below, and I'll do a little line here so it doesn't fill the page. Boom! Wait a minute. Wait a goddamn minute. There's white. It's completely... I'd have to go one by one doing this. Now, another thing you could do is you can expand, right? So, okay, there, fixed. But then what's the issue, right? So if we get Mikola here, right? And I do expand, right? When you have like really small corners like this and it expands out, the problem is it can expand too much. And especially in delicate areas like this, where it's really like thin lines in between, is that it can bleed out. So the easiest thing to do, and to make everyone's life so much easier, is just to do it without anti-aliasing or whatever. Aliasing, or, you know. It just makes everything so much easier. Because now if I want a goofy little guy, I do a little circle, little guy, whatever he looked like, right? And I don't even have to go on a frame below, but I will just because it's simpler. Boom. I don't have to do anything. Problem solved. Boom. There's no issue of like it bleeding through, no issue of like white bits sticking out. Now, this is just because obviously fill doesn't fill out everything in it, but that's not an issue. That's just part of the animation process, or should I say. So that's why, and you'll see that like a lot of anime studios do this as well, because it really is just that easy and simpler to do. Because there really is no point making your life harder, especially when it comes to animation. Now I did not have a perfect process doing this. When I was doing it, I made my life a little harder. When I was doing the sketches, I could have made my life a lot easier and jump straight to line art afterwards, but I didn't, because I usually wouldn't do another like sketch like this. Like once I have this, I would probably go straight to line art, so I would just skip the line art cleanup process completely. But there's an issue when I do that as well. The problem is when I do that, I could lose shape of, like, let's say the head. I have another animation that I've done that it looks wrong. Her head keeps changing shape and she looks wrong, and that's because I just went straight to drawing the line art instead of doing like a sketch underneath. Because when it started, the sketch underneath looks like this, and I would jump straight into this. And you can see her head looks like this, but it will go from this and then to that, and it keeps changing shape. Like, the shape of her head and her hair, to some extent, is very inconsistent. And, like, she'll jump from this, right, to, like, this. The difference is night and day, and it's probably another reason why I never finished this animation. This came out like 2 years ago, and I just never finished it because I would have to have redone like most of it up until like this point, and I already had like a minute of animation. So yes, I was probably better off to do the sketch underneath, but at the same time, it really made the process way longer. But I suppose that's part of it. But usually I don't do that. And yeah, I don't know what the background is gonna be. No clue. There's some references online. I was gonna look up. I was like, what will I make the background? So it's either gonna be the yellow grass or cobblestone, just to make it generic. But at the same time, I still don't know how I'm gonna do that or what I'm gonna do it on, you know? So this is where I'm currently at. The Mikola part is done, and like look at this, right? Let me show you. This is like most of it done. Most of the clip anyway. Like that's halfway. That's at least halfway done. And oh wait, no, it's even more than that. It's over here actually. This is like over halfway done, yeah? And then we'll skip to here. And when he does this pose, it lasts until she stops talking, and then he'll bring his arm out, roll his eyes, and this is the part where this comes in, and it will just show a clip of Mikola in this pose at the very end while he's still arguing. And this is what it is.
How are you gonna fix it, huh? Which one are you gonna fuck me?
You're not my type. I like a fuller figure.
Stop! She's being...
And all of this is for a 9 seconds. It's 9-second voice clip that I thought was funny, and I thought, well, that'd be funny because Mikola is also. Alright, I never said this so far, but this audio is from the TV show Interview with the Vampire. It's actually such a good show, and this is Claudia's, who's yelling the words, you know, at the start.
How are you gonna fix it, huh? Which one are you gonna fuck me?
You're not my type. I like a fuller figure.
Stop. She's being impossible.
And she's very similar to Mikola, and that she's cursed with eternal childhood, basically. I just thought it would be so funny, with the Elden Ring characters instead. So that's where I am so far. This is my first Elden Ring animation. My first animation in like a year, actually. I haven't... Last time I made an animation was... It might have been 2 years ago, but it's like... Or a year and a bit. Yeah, my last animation was a year ago, but it was probably in 2022, yeah. It was like... So this December, it'll be 2 years since I've done an animation. And I would show you the process of like this animation, because I can show you that there is no sketch underneath. It probably... This is also just an animated version of a comic. So I didn't really need a sketch, to be fair. But this is also on my new computer, and all my old files are still on the old one. So I have very limited access to my old art at the moment. If I'm looking at my other animations, right? This one is probably my favorite. For multiple reasons. I think it's probably the funniest. It has the most consistency. What I mean by that is, like, I do have a problem with, like, head shapes. Sometimes I would come back to an animation, because I didn't do a sketch underneath, the head shapes would change a lot. But with this, because I did the sketch underneath, the shapes of the head is very consistent, which I'm quite proud of. And also, there's nothing crazy here. I'd say my best work of actual, like, animation is probably this, and it's not even finished. It's because it has a lot of techniques, right? Like, especially this frame. Let me just know that what I am doing is part of a plan. Like, I like that. It's nothing too crazy. It's just like motion blur, squash and stretch. Especially with this animation, there was a lot of squash and stretch, and I really like it. Like, look at the knife here, right? No one will. Well, it's not more of squash and stretch, it's more of overshooting. And then pulling it back down. But I think this has the most animation in it, should I say. It has the most movement.
Good afternoon, miss. You are my second victim. First one was trouble, not to worry, cause I fixed him. Shh, not a word, cause you won't be heard when I have your life in my hands.
It's not, like, at certain points, it's really good, and at other points it's not. Like, I don't really like from here to here. Like, this looks weird. Like, this looks weird. Her hand is way too small. Her face looks a bit weird. It just looks a bit off. And here, I think her jaw should move, but also her lips look just weird in this position. Her hand is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, I was cooking with the hands in this. And I was so disappointed because the best and the funniest parts of this animation, I never got to actually animate.
And the soul that controls me, the one I should know.
Like, I love this. I love this so much. And then later she does it again. And this part isn't necessarily funny, but it's...
Till I have a life in my hands. Good evening, gents.
Like, I just really like that transition, even though it does not exist. And then this, and then the square head. I just thought that was very funny. She does another scene with Do As He Does. This is a FNAF animation, so be wary. But if I can find it, Do As He Does, that's what she says. This frame, Do As He Does, and it's just fucking... This was in 2022, so this might have been around when Ruin came out, or just before Ruin came out. And it's Security Breach, and everyone was doing the Peapod jokes, and I was like, yeah, just add that in. But like I said, it's not very consistent. Like, at all. Like, look at this dude, and then look here. Similar, but it looks a bit weird. And this part of the animation, like, that looks weird. Her legs look weird. It has the most animation in it and the most techniques, but it's just not coherent. And for all my old animations here, I had no audio. Actually, up until here, this is when my audio first failed. This 2-hour long video. This is outdated, by the way. But it's not even an animation. I had no audio. And for this animation, I'm not gonna show it. I was actually just really lucky that the audio lined up. I was like, whoa, that actually kind of fits. And it was all just coincidence. But I was actually really proud of the animation, but now looking back, I'm like, I could do better. And to be fair, I've done better. Like, I haven't done animation in like nearly 2 years. But I'm doing alright. It's alright. That's everything. I kind of went off topic in the end there, but that's everything. I forgot to mention. So this is how I basically animate, where I do the sketch, the line art in Fire Alpaca. I export it into my frames, and then I would add all the frames into my editing program and manipulate them as much as I wanted. And that's pretty much it. It would be nice if I could have a proper animating software where it's all in the one program, but like I said earlier, Fire Alpaca, even though they kind of have a tool for animation and it's pretty good, like it gets the job done, it isn't an animation program and it isn't really built for it or anything too complex. So each and every frame I have to add in manually into my editing program. But it manages to hold up fine, and that's basically how I animate.
How are you gonna fix it, huh? Which one are you gonna fuck me?
You're not my type. I like a fuller figure.
Stop!
How are you gonna fix it, huh? Which one are you gonna fuck me?
You're not my type. I like a fuller figure.
Stop! She's being impossible.